Hello, everybody, and welcome to the relaunch of Picture Perfect. I am your host, Bobby Gross, and I'm so glad that you guys clicked on this video. You downloaded the podcast episode. I'm so happy to have you here. Thrilled to bring the show back. We went for 8 episodes, something like that, a couple years ago, and we just couldn't find the time to get this right. I want to make this right for you, and we're taking a different direction here. It's just going to be me, but every week we're going to have guests. I'm going to bring on as many people as I can, different backgrounds, different kinds of voices that you guys would enjoy. And for this episode, this first one right here, we are going to be reviewing Cruella and A Quiet Place Part 2. Before we get into that, I just want to plug the show. You can find us on YouTube, Picture Perfect, Twitter, Pick Perfect Cast. Follow us on there, get all the updates for the show's guest announcements. I actually have a huge guest announcement at the end of the show, so you're going to want to make sure that you stay tuned. But for the first show, I got a good one here. He's a buddy of mine for years and years. You might know him as Nytemare10. It's my buddy, Phillip Griffith. There he is. What is going on, Phil?
Bobby, I'm so glad that you're relaunching this. This is awesome. I listened to, I think I actually listened to 2 of them while I was at work back when we could do it. Now we can't, but that was always a good listen. So I'm glad to be on the show. Thanks for having me.
And I just want to say, I'm going to try to get the animal Mike Batiste on as much as possible. That was my original co-host on the show. He's just a busy guy. He's a busy guy. He's doing some journalist stuff for the New York Red Bulls. He's a big soccer guy. And he just has a lot of commitments going on. So, but when he's available, I'm going to bring him on. Because he's a character. I'm sure you know Phil.
Oh yeah,
from listening to those episodes. He's a character.
He was great.
But how you doing, man? How's everything? How have you handled this crazy almost year and a half now? Like it's been unbelievable.
It's just great to finally see kind of like the horizon. Like no one really knew. Like and I knew like once we started getting back, it was gonna just kind of happen, and that's kind of what's happened. Like okay, one day it's just like okay. Everybody, if you're vaccinated, you're good. I'm like, all right. So I got vaccinated and all that's like, it's like, which it still worries me because there's people, now you can't ask. So there's that involved in it as well, but not to get into, all that. But for movies in general, it's like,
right.
Years like I had no, like, I've really felt like I got into the whole, like any movie that was nominated Oscars, I pretty much knew, like there's a few that would surprise me in the end. It's like, but I heard about the buzz, like me, you, Markeem, like there's like, we were always talking movies. And then like, I loved going to the movies, even if it was a crappy movie, I'd go see, like if there's nothing playing, I'd find something, and it's like to not go, like the last movie I saw was Dr. Dolittle.
Oh, wow.
That was the last movie.
What a one to go out on. Jeez.
Well, right. And that's the thing. It's like, okay, it wasn't terrible. It was like, whatever. It was going, go to see the movie. But like, for that to end and I don't get to see another one again, I'm like, and then Quiet Place Part 2 was the last. Oh man, and we'll get to that whole experience. But like, just being back in the movies was just that was like, okay, now things are coming back.
It's absolutely the best. And actually, my last movie was Onward. And it was the opening weekend, and I'm pretty sure it was the following Monday or Tuesdays when everything started shutting down. And then that's when like it immediately went up on Disney Plus. That's what I remember. And then before that was like Invisible. Around that time was Invisible Man as well. I don't know if you saw that one, Phil, but that was like
I saw it on your list, and I keep telling myself,
great one. It's a great one. But yeah, man, like
I'm like, wow, okay, all right. Like,
I'm not gonna lie. Like these past weekend movies, that wasn't my first time. It was actually the weekend before I saw Wrath of Man in the theaters, and like it was just so special, man. Like you don't know what you have until it's gone.
It's gone,
and to have that like theater experience taken away for more than a year, it was brutal. Because I mean, I don't mind watching movies at home. It's just not the same. Like being around people and having that kind of community energy in the theater. There's nothing like it, and I'm sure.
It almost like I guess maybe I'm old school in it. Like, but like watching it, like I mean, obviously I stream a bunch of stuff, and we'll get into all like what I've been streaming lately. But like it just doesn't seem big budget unless you see it in the theater. Like it seems still like under. I mean, obviously they make the they spend the same amount of money making these movies, but like it just doesn't seem the same effect. It's like it's like there was a big one not too long ago that it's like I want to see this in theaters. Why am I watching it at home? Like
Godzilla versus Kong.
Yeah, versus Kong, which I think it was in some theaters, but I don't think it wasn't time. I don't know if ours was open yet. I don't think it was, but so it's like that, like a movie like that. It's like I don't want to watch this at home, and it hurt like how I viewed it because it's like I mean, we have great entertainment systems at home now, but it just wasn't the same effect. Like that was a movie like I'm ready to see it in theaters, and I thought that would be the first one back, and then it wasn't, and it's like, and then you hear like another issue, like you'd hear all these movies like potentially in Quiet Place Part 2 is a big example of that, but like. Hear all these movies about to come out, and you're like, okay, when are they going to come out? And then you hear the date, and then that changed, and then it's like, well, then you just started not even caring about when they came out because you never knew when they were going to come out.
I think that was the roughest part of last year because like it was always like here's something and then it was taken away, right? Like all these movies were given 3 or 4 different release dates, and it's extremely cathartic that now like movies are open, society seems to be opening up, and like we're able to finally get all of these movies. And I think, Phil, that this is why it's the perfect time to relaunch the show because there's so much backlog. Like I was just scheduling out everything the other week, and it's just every week it seems like there's a huge movie because I mean we have all of last year's movies that were delayed. We have this year's movies. It's going to be so much fun doing the show, and I'm so happy that you're here, Phil, for the first relaunch episode. And what I was thinking, we're going to be tinkering around with the format of the show. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts about everything. If you have any ideas, please feel free to send them over. But what I was thinking for this first episode, maybe just picking a couple of things that we can both discuss that we've watched recently. And, because right now there's just so much, even though like we were inside for so long, it just meant like more streaming content and all this kind of stuff. Now we have theaters, but there's just been so much stuff on Netflix, HBO Max. So Phil, I want to know what you've been watching.
So we were talking a little bit before the show, but like my sister, I've been sharing her HBO Max, and I've loved that. Like they've got some good series on there. So I watched the Nevers on there. I'm not sure. It's only 6 episodes, I think.
That's the Joss Whedon show, right?
Yeah,
I think he was involved for it, and then all the stuff came out, and then he got kicked off. I think it was.
He got kicked off of that, and there's someone. I don't remember the name of the person that's in charge of it now, but that kind of worries me too because like you have someone that has a certain vision, and then if they, do a whole turn, it's like I've witnessed that too many times. It doesn't always go well.
It's always good to have one creative vision, especially on television shows. Like television shows, if they're, 10, 13, 20 something episodes, if you don't have one direction there, it could go off the rails easily.
It's one of the things that like I guess no one will ever know, but it's like, even though I'm like less critical and I actually enjoy most of the new trilogy of Star Wars, that was one of my biggest things. I'm like, it's you can't really blame it's like you can blame Disney because they should have had one person for each 3, but that's like a prime example of like what people that think that the story doesn't go well. It's like, well, that's because they have the plan was to have 3 different directors. It worked out that 2 of like one got to do 2 of them, but
it's funny because JJ just came out this past week talking about this. He said that he didn't want to even do the first one, but he did it, and then he left for the second one, and then practically like had to be begged into the third one. So yeah, I mean, definitely that's a great point, Phil. The newest Star Wars movies definitely needed that one creative vision to get those on track because it's just very mixed results.
Yeah, and that's why I get in the concert. Like I get a lot of it. I think I got a lot of because I enjoyed it. But we're gonna go off on Star Wars. I'm sorry, but no. But
please, just not the Last Jedi. I cannot talk about the Last Jedi anymore. I don't think anybody can.
We don't have enough time for that. But I just for the record, I did love that movie. But I get the disdain for it. I understand. Like it's not for everybody. But anyways, but yeah, it's like what I was getting at, going back to the Nevers, is like so hopefully that doesn't hurt it. It's definitely like kind of one of those like, which a lot of shows are like. The Nevers is like you kind of have to like understand what the show's about first, like kind of start watching it, and then then you're like, oh, okay, and then towards the end it was kind of like they threw like not a curveball. You could kind of see that coming, but it was just something that I was like, oh, this is where it's going. I'm not sure how, just right when you finally get it, it's like you're like, oh, now I have to follow this. But another good one is Mare of East. We talked about this too before the show, but I can't say it. Mare of Easttown.
Mare of Easttown, because everybody thought it was Mayor. No, Mare like Marianne of Easttown.
Of Easttown. Kate Winslet is amazing. I think she sells that show even when it's not the best, as you probably can agree. Like there's moments where it's kind of like whatever, but she sells it and keeps it going. It's a good show. I haven't watched the finale yet, so for anyone that comments and be like, well, wait, blah 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 blah. Sorry, neither of us have seen the finale. I think you started it, but so that's a good one too. Oh, I can't hear you anymore, Bobby.
There we go. We good? There's this little button here. I got a little convenient mute button here.
Yeah.
It just gets a little stuck. But yeah, the finale, I started it, haven't finished. I will say that it's kind of your typical HBO murder mystery kind of show. It's very similar to what I felt about Sharp Objects. I don't know if you saw that one, Phil, a couple years ago.
Watching it, but never did.
Yeah, with Amy Adams. Like it's kind of like that. It's very, it's prestige-y and kind of wears out its welcome, but it's still really good. Like everybody's good in the show. So
I'll say this. I think it's going to be better once all the episodes are out and people start watching it all together. I think it wasn't the greatest like week to week thing. Like towards the end, then you were ready for the next episode. Like after the last episode, I'm like was really excited for the finale. I haven't watched it yet, but I think like now that it's out, I think it'll be more like appreciated for what it's as a whole. And I like limited series too because I think a lot of times things get run to the ground, and you know that. So I think that it's good when you have limited like. Not all of them, but some of the. I think I saw season 1 and 3 of True Detective is a good example. I like those just one season things and
well, that was the same thing with Big Little Lies. Like Big Little Lies season 1, that was meant to be a limited series, but then it was just so popular, it got all these awards, it got so much recognition that they came back for season 2, and the results just weren't there. Like it just wasn't a good show anymore. So hopefully, I mean, listen, I like Big Little Lies more than Mare of Easttown, but at the same time, I still don't want to see it come back for a second season. Like they're telling the story one season. That's all you need.
And I think that's the thing that kind of irritates me now. I mean, I guess it's always been a thing, but like money kind of drives. So like if something makes money, like they decide they have to make another one or they have to remake it because it's going to make money. Disney's in the zone of that. Like, yeah, I'm gonna watch them because I love Disney, but like
especially with one of the movies that we're gonna talk about today.
But like I'll actually because I was going to see this movie, like I saw an ad or something about it, or an article on IGN or whatever. Like I was listing like all the ones that they plan on making, and I'm like, oh my god, I didn't even know they were doing all these. And I'm like, and some of them are already in or have started production, and I'm like, good lord, they're gonna make money. So I totally get it from Disney's perspective, but it's kind of like you worried that it's gonna saturate the market. Like I think Marvel has been protective of what they do. That's the only thing I'm worried about with Disney Plus. I feel like now that there's so many series coming out, which I think you can get away with a little bit more than movies. But like, I just hope they don't saturate the market. Like that's when kind of people just don't care anymore because everything like Marvel special because there's not a movie coming out every month, or every year.
It's close to every month this year though, Phil. I mean, between the shows and the movies, like it's constant.
Yeah,
it's constant.
That's why I said that can be saturated because then there's some things that people aren't going to watch. Like you're going to have to pick what you watch because it's like, well, they're overlapping and there's so many different shows. And, but I think it works a little bit with shows versus movies because it's like, you got to have time to build up the anticipation, I guess.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Disney Plus, I'm glad you brought that up, Phil, because what I've been watching and just finished watching, I don't know if you have, but the Mighty Ducks Game Changer show on Disney Plus.
I haven't finished it, but I've heard good things.
No spoilers here. No spoilers. All I'll say is that this show is phenomenal. Like, I mean, it just came out of nowhere. Like, I heard everything like, oh, they're going to make a Mighty Ducks show, but, Emilio Estevez is coming back. Some of the kids are coming back. But what is the show going to be, right? And, like, almost from the jump, I loved it. Like it's just it's the same concept as, the movies. It's an underdog story It's got great kid performances. The one main kid is also he was in Good Boys.
Yeah,
I don't remember his name, but he's really good in this. The daughter in Succession is in the show as well. I don't know if I forget her name,
yeah. I
but
think I knew I
there's
recognized her. Okay.
and then Lauren Graham from Gilmore Girls is the mom, and it's just like a super heartfelt show. I've compared it to like Ted Lasso in that way. Like at the end of every episode, you
Great
just
show, by the way. I watched that.
phenomenal show,
Somebody
phenomenal
recommended
show.
that. Amazing show. I'm so glad that's getting into this.
Season 2 coming soon. Very excited
Amazing
about
show.
that.
You have not watched it. That was one I actually forgot. I should yes,
Ted Lasso.
You recommended it.
Highly
So,
recommend that show.
yeah.
So if you like Ted Lasso, you're gonna like the Mighty Ducks Game Changers because it's the same kind of feel. You feel warm inside after every episode. It's just, I mean, it's cliched, right? We've
Right.
seen this story before, but it's the way, it's the tenderness that it's given, and just these character moments are just so good. I gotta say, Phil, I would go as far as to say that the Mighty Ducks Game Changers, I enjoyed it more than both of the MCU shows from this year, WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier.
I've heard that. I've heard a lot of people liked it more than, and when I was not that big of a fan. Maybe I just don't know the source material much. I was not that much of a fan of Winter Soldier. It didn't do much for me.
Yeah, same.
It was just something to watch. It's like so but WandaVision got good at the end. But like one thing I like about it is that I was thinking while you were talking was that it kind of like it's good to have something like Game Changers, even though I've only seen a couple of episodes. It's good to have stuff like that and Ted Lasso because we all like they're all looking for the next big drama, the next Game of Thrones, the next like
exactly.
So a lot of them are like deep things that are like if you only have one season of you're not really gonna feel that same feeling till like deep into the series, and so it's gonna take a while. Whereas it's good to have those where you can instantly, you don't really have to like. I'm not saying you don't have to think, but I was like, you get to just like fun thing, and it's good that Disney Plus is one that is doing that because it's needed in the market when you have things that aren't
Yeah, there's so many like cynical shows out there, and this is the complete opposite. I mean, I'm not gonna spoil any part of the show. I will say that I loved what they did with Bombay coming back into the fold. I love that. They honor the original trilogy so well. It never feels like fan service. I feel like it just comes natural, especially when it comes to Bombay making certain decisions. It makes sense from his perspective. I cannot recommend Mighty Ducks Game Changers any higher. And I'm pretty sure there's another show, Phil. I don't know if you've heard about this one with John Stamos called Big Shot. This one is
I
like
didn't know if that was a movie or a show. I saw it on Disney Plus when I was in there, but
yeah. I've from what I've heard, it's very similar to Game Changers. It's like a girls basketball team. John Stamos coaches the girls basketball team, I think. So I might give that one a shot eventually. Just because like Game Changers. I mean, if it's being compared to Game Changers, I'll probably watch it. But yeah, man, big shout out to Mighty Ducks Game Changers. Cannot wait for season 2, especially where they leave it. Phil, you got to catch up.
That might be next after I finish the finale of Mare. That might be next because I'm looking for something to watch too. So
anybody who watching, listening that really likes the Mighty Ducks movies, like you're gonna love this show, no doubt about it. And then the second thing I've been watching, I don't know if you've seen this one either, Phil. From last week, I think it was dropped on Netflix, Army of the Dead.
Yes.
The Zack Snyder movie. Interesting that this is coming out so shortly after the Snyder cut, which I'm sure is purposeful. Like, there was buzz for that cut for so long and it dropped. And I don't think from what I was reading, it was as big of a hit as HBO expected. I mean, it did well, but it wasn't like, one of these things that drove so many subscribers to the streaming service. But
I haven't even finished it because I just can't get through. It's so freaking long, and it's like I always forget to go back to it. I need to finish it. I think I'm like quarter of the way through or something. I don't remember, but.
And it's funny too because I really liked the ultimate cut of Batman v Superman. Like I hated the original theatrical cut, but the extended cut of Snyder put out of BVS was really good. Like it changes so many things for the best. Like it because I think this is just a Warner Brothers issue for whatever reason, and I understand that you can't run a 3-hour, 4-hour movie in theaters. Like you're just not going to make money that way.
They're making movies for the casuals. That's the problem. Like so, like the ones that the extended cut is there for guys like us that are like wanting to watch what the true movie should be, but we can't. They can't release that because they're not making money.
And I think that was the case with the Snyder Cut. It was like everybody who wanted to watch the Snyder Cut watched it. It was just a matter of hooking that casual viewer in. I don't think that happened. Just with the runtime alone, it was a 4-hour movie. It was ridiculous.
I think the easy way to solve that, Bobby, is I don't know why they didn't release it in parts. Like they could release all the parts.
They were going to do it. They were going to break it up into a miniseries, and then
perfect.
At one point, I don't know who said no, but it just went into a 4-hour cut. And I know people that watched it as a miniseries anyway. Like they would watch an hour of it, watch another one.
I just haven't gone back to where I've
and there's chapters.
Hour mark, and they're like, I'm not,
and there's chapters in the cut too, so it's very easy to chop it up like that. But then we have Army of the Dead, and I'll just say this. I liked it. Like it's a good movie. I know that most people didn't like it. I totally understand why, because it's the same problem that most Zack Snyder cuts have, and it's super long. It's like 2 hours, 20 minutes, something like that. Way too long for this movie. Army of the Dead did not need to be that long.
There was some dead weight they could have cut for sure.
But I will say this. It's definitely a return to form for Snyder as far as kind of style wise. Like it's more in line with his non-comic book stuff than with BVS. It has more in common with, let's say, 300 or Dawn of the Dead than it has in common with Snyder Cut or Man of Steel or anything like that, because there was like a lightness to it. It was serious, what they were doing. It took itself sometimes too seriously, but there was a lightness to it, and I really liked Dave Bautista in the movie. He was great.
Oh, he sold that movie for me. Like, I assume I can vouch for several. I don't know if that's like the majority, but like if he hadn't been in that movie, I probably wouldn't have rushed to watch it. Like, eventually I would have watched it because it's Snyder, but like that sold me. I'm like, oh, Dave's in a zombie movie. I'm down. Let's go.
He was the biggest name in that movie by far too. Like it's a lot of lesser known actors and actresses.
I forgot his last name, but Theo from Sons of Anarchy. That's the only one.
Oh, Theo Rossi. Theo James, I think, something like that. Yeah. That's exactly why. As soon as he came on the screen, I was like, "Oh God, that's the dude from Sons of Anarchy. Where have you been for like 5 years?"
Yeah, I don't know why he's not in more. He's so good at what he does.
Yeah, but so I liked it. What did you think, Phil, of Army of the Dead?
I thought it was good. I mean, it was a great. Like, I don't know if it would be like if I went to the movies, I might have been like more critical of it, but like. Seeing it at home, like I thought it was a good movie. I thought it was good for Netflix. I mean, it was fun. Like it had its moments. Like you said, it was too long. It had its like drawn out moments. The end was kind of iffy.
It actually ran in Cinemark for a week, I think. Like
I saw someone say it did. Yeah,
and it was the week before it dropped on Netflix, which was even more interesting. Like I would understand if it was the week that it dropped that Friday, but it actually ran before, which maybe it was just to generate buzz. I'm not sure, but I think it could have been kind of cool to see on the big screen.
Yeah.
But
honestly, for someone too, like that's just like over zombies. Like I think it's just been like in games.
Yeah,
it's just what more can you really do? Which is one of the reasons why I like Quiet Place, because it kind of makes a new spin on the whole end of the apocalypse stuff. But like, like I just it's like so to still for me to still like it, I was like there was enough in it that made it. Like I said, I don't know if I feel that way if Batista's not in it, so I'll admit that. But it was good for what it was.
It started off super well. I think it kind of lost itself actually kind of during the heist. Like I didn't really like the heist aspect of it. Everything building up to it was really good. And then it just kind of dragged for a while there. But I still really liked it. Like Ting Notaro is CGI'd into the movie, which is insane. And she was like my like favorite character in the movie besides Batista. Like she was so good in it as the like getaway pilot, I guess.
Oh, the pilot, yeah. She was CGI'd in that?
Yeah. So
Wow, I wouldn't even known that. That's crazy.
I think it's one of those things like if you knew that going in, you could see it, but if you didn't, you had no clue.
Yeah, they did amazing
Because
at it then.
originally it was Chris D'Elia, the comedian that like got in trouble for like talking to those underage girls. So they kind of did a all the money in the world situation where they took him out and replaced him with Tig Notaro, but the film was entirely shot already, so they didn't reshoot anything. All they did was digitally insert her into the scenes that were shot and took Chris out, which is just insane. Like the technology that we have these days.
That makes me love it a little more now. Like I'm
like
wow,
how crazy is that?
Well. Not knowing that going in,
yeah,
you could tell. Like you said, obviously you could probably see it, but like if I watched it again, I'd probably see it.
I respect the hell out of Zack Snyder to make that decision too, because some people would just like leave him in. The film is what it is, and that probably cost a good amount for Netflix. Although I don't know if they really care about budgets anymore because it's just like. But yeah, I would recommend Army of the Dead. It's not great. It's like a Saturday night watch. Get some popcorn. Don't think about it too much. There's some really stupid things in it. Some really cool things. I would say it's kind of as far as like Snyder Cut and Army of the Dead from this year. I think the highs in Snyder Cut were better than the highs in Army of the Dead, but they're kind of equally good. But the fat needed to be trimmed a little bit more.
Not to get negative, but I just thought about another movie while we talk about this that I watched recently, and I was like I had to fight through it. And I love Gerard Butler, but he's like one of I guess you could say my man crushes in acting. But Greenland, I don't know if you watched that, but
I actually heard pretty good things about that. Like surprisingly good things about Greenland.
I'm not saying it was terrible. It's like it wasn't terrible, and it wasn't even bad. I wouldn't even say it was bad necessarily. It just wasn't. It didn't really do anything for me, and it's just like I don't know. Maybe that night. Sometimes it's when you watch the movie. Sometimes it has.
You're just in like a wrong mindset to watch it, and then
So that could be it too. So don't like. I'm not saying go definitely check it out. It's not terrible. So it's like if you need something to watch, it's on HBO Max for anyone that was wondering. But it's just not. I was kind of expecting a little more. Maybe I have too much high hopes for Butler, but.
Maybe you probably just expected one movie and you got another, right?
Yeah,
like maybe that could have been it.
Yeah, I expected a lot or something. I don't know, but yeah, it was just kind of like slow, more of a slow roll than I guess I expected. I thought it would be more like
Yeah. Well, that's what we've been watching, guys. So if you enjoyed that segment, let us know. I'm open to different segments that everyone would like to hear and watch. So please tweet me at Bobby is Gross. Tweet the show at Pick Perfect Cast. Would love to hear your feedback. But we're gonna dive right into it, Phil, because we have two huge releases this past weekend: Cruella and A Quiet Place Part 2. Now, Phil, you are the guest here, so I'm going to open it up to you. Which one would you like to talk about first? Because I have a lot of thoughts about one more than the other.
Okay, well, I don't know which one you're talking about, but I say we should start with Cruella because that's
perfect.
The one I like the least out of the two. But
yes. Okay, we're on the same page there.
Yeah, but I didn't hate Cruella though. I think me and you might. I think I liked it a lot more than, or not a lot more, but I think I did like it a little more than you did. I will say with Emma Stone, to me, like I think there'll be too many good options out there that she probably won't get nominated. But I think her as like she should at least get maybe like a Golden Globe or something, maybe not Oscars worthy. But I thought she sold the movie for me. Like, take her out and put a like not so good. Like I think the movie loses a lot without her. She killed it as Cruella.
And just a heads up for everybody listening, we're going to do our non-spoiler part first. And then if we have any spoiler parts, what I'll do is I'll put some timestamps in the description so you guys can skip ahead if you haven't seen these movies yet. Because I have a lot to say about, I mean, Phil, you picked a good one to start. I have a lot of spoiler thoughts to get out about Cruella. I'll say this.
You had me intrigued too before we do it. You had your little GIF on Twitter. I'm like, what is he? Oh, okay, all right. So I was kind of going in with a little more different expectations too. But
Phil, I have. I'll say this: it's not terrible, right? and this might just be a me thing. I'll get this out of the way because this is another one of these Disney live action remakes, villain prequels, just milking that sweet IP.
Yeah.
And
dry.
and they're still going, Phil. It's not even
It's
close to
not
being
gonna
dry with Peter Pan and
we'll be
Wendy,
dead
all
if
these
we
other
do that.
ones. It's never gonna end until every one of their cartoons are live action. Every one of their villains have an origin story. So this just might be a me thing. At this point, I it has to be because I haven't really enjoyed any of these movies. It just feels redundant to me. Like you're not bringing anything new, right? I mean, we've had all the remakes from the cartoons: Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Jungle Book. All of them range from just unnecessary to okay. I haven't found one that I've like really sunk my teeth in. Maybe Beauty and the Beast, but that's just because the music is so good and it's pretty faithful to the cartoon while also giving it a little bit of a spin on it. Um, this Cruella movie, which is probably more comparable to something like Maleficent, which I'd seen once. I thought it was okay.
I thought that was okay.
Yeah. Did you even see the sequel to that?
Because the first one wasn't like great to where I needed to rush to see the second. It's like the sequels. The first one's not even on Disney Plus. I'm not sure why, but the second one is.
Yeah, so it's one of these things where it's like, okay, we're making a movie about a villain who, she wasn't always this way, although she kind of was. Not to spoil anything, but she was kind of pretty terrible throughout the whole movie. But I will say the things that I did like, first of all, for a Disney movie, this was probably the most non-Disney of all these remakes and reimaginings. Like, I don't want to say that this was a different movie at one point that was shoehorned as Cruella just to get the IP. But it's certainly, as far as a visual standpoint, it stands out from like everything else. It's just completely like the fashion is fantastic. The way it's shot, there's certain movements that kind of reminded me of something like a Martin Scorsese movie with the way the camera moves and everything like that. It's definitely not like anything that we've seen from a Disney remake, reimagining one of those kind of live action films. So I'll give props to Craig Gillespie at that point, who directed I, Tonya a couple years ago, which was also similar to, well, she's just misunderstood. She's not exactly a villain. So he kind of brought that over to Cruella. I thought it was fine. It just didn't do it for me. I don't know about you, Phil, but how was the was this? No, you went to see A Quiet Place first. That was your first movie back.
First. Yeah.
How was your theater reacting to Cruella? Because mine, I think they were just confused for most of it. Like the comedy, most of the jokes just didn't land.
Actually, me and my friend, me, my sister, and my cousin, and my friend went and saw Cruella. So I saw Quiet Place Part 2 by myself, but I don't know why I had to mention that. But Cruella, what I'm saying is, because with Cruella, we laughed at the jokes. Actually, I did.
Okay.
But like no one, I felt like no one else laughed. So maybe we were in the minority when we were enjoying it, and other people weren't. I didn't feel like I heard anybody else. Like normally laugh, you hear everybody else. Like I think one time I heard everybody else laugh too. So it was like that was odd. Like that. I'm glad you mentioned that.
It didn't know what it wanted to be, because it would get serious at points, and then you have the goons, I guess, that are kind of the comedy relief. But it seemed like it didn't land. Two different experience in theaters, and it seems like both of ours, there was a disconnect somewhere.
I think the hard thing with the villain, and I think that's what I think people maybe are having a problem with, or in our theaters or whatever, like it's a villain, but Disney's gonna make it where like you're sympathetic to that villain. So then you're like, well, she's horrible, but then I'm supposed to like her. Like, so I think people are conflicted with that. And I think with like you have the movie with like it's the same thing with the Joker, but like you don't like it. Eventually, it's gonna go dark. Whereas Disney's not gonna go dark. Like although in this movie, I kept thinking, no spoilers, but like I kept thinking it was going to go somewhere, and it end up didn't. So I was
Yeah.
like, okay. But and we'll talk more about that in the spoiler section. But I honestly enjoyed, like, you made a great point about the live actions. Like, none of them have wowed me. I don't go back and I'm like, oh, I've got to go see that other one again. I like a lot of times, like with Disney, I'm like, oh, I need to own this, and it's like I can't wait till this is on Disney Plus, whatever. But like with Cruella, I enjoyed it. Like I really did. I don't know where it ranks above. Like I think it just kind of is up there with them. I think it's better than some of the ones that I don't really like. Like I didn't really care for Beauty and the Beast personally. And I love, but I think that's because I love the cartoon so much.
Okay,
like I had so many high expectations, and when they didn't, like Beauty and the Beast did, I do agree with you about they did stay to the source material a little more. And this one does make like little nods. I love 101 Dalmatians as well. So it does make some like, I can't think of the right word, not nods, but like
homages. It's like
yeah.
they have little tips of the hats to certain things.
Yeah.
But that's I don't want to get into it. We'll save it in a couple minutes. But I was just very confused on what this exactly was. Is this a prequel? Is this a reimagining? Because there's certain things that happen that don't line up with the original movies. But I will say, like, Emma Stone is fantastic. Like, I won't say that she felt like Cruella to me, but what she's doing is so enjoyable. It's so easy to watch. It's so fun to watch. Emma Thompson as, I guess, the villain, even though Cruella's a villain. Like, it's weird. Like, there's obvious. It's weird. There's comparisons to, Devil Wears Prada. I think that's kind of. I mean, I could see the similarities, but I think it's just a kind of a different movie. It's available on Disney Plus at the Premier Access for $30. I have A-List. I don't know about you, Phil. I have the AMC A-List, so it's like $20 something a month, and you get 3 movies a week, and you get to see it in any format. So it actually, I went with my girlfriend, and it turned out to be way cheaper than getting it for $30 on Disney Plus. So, I mean, I think that's just for families, though, instead of getting like 3 kids tickets and then 2 adults or whatever it is. If you have nothing better to watch, or if you're just, I mean, listen, I'll say this. If you just want to like watch it and not take it super seriously, I didn't take it super seriously. I was just confused a lot of the time. It looks great. Like the costume design, the set design is so good. But other than that, like the performances were good. It's just the story didn't do anything for me, unfortunately. It just,
I think the one thing I will say that helped this one is because it wasn't a musical. Like, I know they're cartoons, but like, you got Beauty and the Beast. Okay, now it's a musical, so now you have to match the songs quality. Mulan. It's like,
Mulan. Ugh, I forgot about that one. That Mulan was brutal.
Yeah, Mulan was. I don't know. I'll leave that one alone. I don't know, but I didn't hate it. It's whatever. I'm like you. Like, some of them, I'm like, why? Why do we need to make this? Like, we already have Mulan type movies.
But like you said, Phil, it's IP. It's money. Like that. There's no.
Stick that name on it, and people are gonna go watch it. It's like
there's no.
I'm sure they're gonna do Lilo and Stitch. Why? Why are they doing a live action Lilo and Stitch? That makes no sense to me. But
there's no creative angles to these. Like, I don't think they basically like decide to remake the movie and then work backwards that way. I feel like there's no pitch to do these movies. It's just like, okay, we have this IP, let's convert it from animated to live action, or we have this villain, let's make a origin movie. I don't think that these movies come from a creative direction. It's more of an IP direction, like you mentioned before, Phil.
And that, to me, that, like, I know what Disney's capable of doing, and you can't tell me that they aren't capable still of making amazing new properties. Because I like Ride of the Dragon. I don't know how well you liked it. I thought
it was okay. It was okay.
As far as like the more recent ones that Disney has done, so it's like, I just think they're like, like you said, they're kind of copping out. It's like, Disney, I know you have all these the rights to stuff like this, but like let's like use that Imagineering that you have to go to make give us new stuff. Like, I think like new stuff that now in the future kids can look back at and say, hey, I grew up on this. It's like, What'd you grow up on? The live action Lion King. Okay, well, I grew up on the original Lion King. Like, I mean, it's like
I feel bad
I'm
for
gonna
those
do
kids,
that
by
too.
the way, if they grew up on the live action Lion King. I feel real bad.
It's like, which is visually stunning, but like another movie does nothing
Yeah.
for me. Like it just doesn't do anything for me. It's like it's not, it's like, but yeah, like it was. I mean, we'll get to spoilers when we get to them, but I enjoyed it. Like I like coming out of the theater, I was like, wow, like but I think I had low expectations because all the live actions I don't really expect to love. I expect to be like, okay, that's, I don't know why you
And
did it, but okay, it was good. Like,
maybe this is just like not even just a remake and reboot problem for Disney. It might just be a live action problem for Disney lately. Because I feel like even there are other stuff like A Wrinkle in Time and Artemis Fowl, like they're just like farts in the wind. like
like one of those things that you can like, okay, watch it if you have nothing else to watch, like kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just, and besides like MCU and Star Wars, I don't consider. I mean, they are Disney, but they're not Disney live action. Like this is Disney Studios. It seems like their live action stuff just doesn't connect. I don't know what it is. Like their animated stuff, like Pixar and their Disney animation stuff, those are on the whole very good. Still ranges from great, but they've just been struggling with their live action stuff. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, and I think you can do like when they did Jungle Book. Jungle Book makes sense to do live action. I get that. Lion King, okay, whatever. But like some of them, I just don't understand. Like I love the concept of Cruella. Like I thought, and I do think it works for what it is. It just isn't gonna get. I think it struggles with its identity a little bit in the movie. I agree with that for sure. But like I said, I enjoyed it. I didn't come out hating it at all.
Yeah.
But it's not one of the, I'm not going to come out like, wow, that was, Emma Stone did. Like, that was, I came out saying Emma Stone's amazing. Like, that's the only thing I've ever seen, saying a lot. I was like, she's amazing. Like,
all right, so let's just jump into spoilers. So this is going to be the official start of the spoiler section. We got the waves. I'll put time codes in. I'll put time codes in the description. So if you guys want to skip right ahead to A Quiet Place Part 2, that's perfectly fine. Phil, can you explain to me what even the point of this movie was? Because I figured it to be, this is why Cruella was the way she was, right?
Yeah.
And we get this whole backstory about, which is just utterly ridiculous. I could not believe, like, when a movie starts and within the first 10 minutes you either know you're gonna like it or you don't. I kind of felt that way when they started doing the thing where they incorporate the soundtrack too much. It's like different pop songs from that time and montages. Like there's so many montages in this movie.
I was gonna say too that I love the soundtrack.
I love the songs themselves, but I don't think that.
That's why I think I like them, because the songs themselves are awesome.
It just hits you over the head. But then when we see that the Dalmatians kill her mother, it was just like, and there's a dog whistle, and the Dalmatians just jump on this woman, and she falls over the cliff. Arguably, that was the funniest point in the movie for me.
But then I was like, okay, I guess I forgave it, because I was like, okay, well then clearly that's why she kills Dalmatians and wants them dead. But then they don't give you that.
Exactly. So okay.
Like, what?
So we go to the end of the movie. And like they kind of tease it, like, and there's one scene in the movie where she's like, "Oh, those Dalmatians would make a nice coat," but then at the end of the movie, she's like all nice with the Dalmatians, and she goes into the Hell Hall. She had the Dalmatians with her, and then she gives Dalmatians to the couple from the original, and I'm like, so what is this?
Yeah.
Is this?
I was walking out actually, and I was like, "Oh, I need to look. I should look just in case there's a credit scene." And then I actually had to run back in and watch that part.
I am so confused, Phil, as to what this was. Is this like a reimagining of Cruella? Like, are you not making her a villain? Are you making her like an anti-hero? What is this?
Here's the problem: they want her to be a villain, or she is a villain. They already have the source material, right? But they can't make her too bad because it's a movie. Like it's still like they want it to be like they don't know which way to go, because I said at one point I'm like, she's about to get twisted and this is gonna get like dark, and it didn't go that way because of course Disney's not going to go that way.
Right, like when she has that one time, like she's by herself and there's that voiceover and she looks like a mess. Like that was kind of like it kind of reminded me of Joker in a way. Like this is where the turn is happening, but the turn isn't really a turn because she was a brat from the very beginning. Like we see it in her childhood, and there's never one good part of her in this movie. I mean, unless I'm forgetting something, she was never good to anybody.
And that's the thing. It's like, but like as a like you kind of forgave her as a kid, right? Because she's a kid. She's obviously not in the greatest situation. She's only got a single parent, whatever. And then you even more so see that, so you sympathize with her. But the problem is like she snaps but doesn't snap. Like
right.
Like I know you said there's no like really good qualities, but she snaps, and then it's like, well, you have Horace and God, I can't think of the other guy's name. Horace and Jasper. And it's like in the movie, like I got like, okay, well, eventually she's gonna be mean to them because she like bullies them in the movie, you know, in the animations. But then she's like, because you can see them kind of seeing like, well, we don't like this version of Cruella. I'm like, well, you're not gonna like her because she's gonna start bossing you around. But then that doesn't happen because like she kind of like, I'm sorry. It's like is she good or is she not? Like you can't.
Right.
You know?
I felt like Emma Thompson's character felt more like Cruella than Cruella did. Right. Like she's just utterly evil. There is no reason for it. She's a murderer. She does not care. I don't know where this came from. So maybe Phil in 20 years will get her origin story. Because like we're just gonna over explain.
It's like, what did her mom do? But I kept saying, I'm like, okay, well, clearly she's like basically like, and maybe she like, I was like, well, maybe she has to become her to basically beat her. Like, but it's like, she obviously needs a reason. And then of course, spoilers, you know, that she's her mom because she killed her fake mom or whatever. Like,
and that twist was like, oh my God, like what, I mean, if you look close enough in the beginning, you could tell it was Emma Thompson's character on the ledge there. And there was clearly like the way that her mom was going to Emma Thompson. I figured either like her husband was the father or she was the mother. And then it turns out that she was the mother. But I was just, I watched the end of this movie and I'm like, what is this thing? Because now I'm just so confused. Because are you really going to reimagine a Disney villain as an like not even a villain anymore? Like, because she really isn't a villain at the end of this thing.
They had a chance to make her a villain at the end. If she kills her mom, like eventually, like, okay, well, that's the whole thing. Like, well, superheroes aren't supposed to do that. Like, or like, you know, heroes aren't supposed to cross that line. So I was like, well, this is a Disney movie. I don't expect them to, but like, she kind of has to cross the line for her to like officially. And then like everyone else would give up on her because they know like the whole burial scene didn't really matter because it's like, well, you're not really that much. Like,
and did no one notice at the end when the Emma Thompson's being arrested that Cruella is right there when everybody thought that she was dead? Like she's just standing there.
Yeah, she comes
in front of everybody.
Yeah, she yeah.
And is there like no reaction? Like, oh, what's going on here? No, because she's got the Cruella hair and everything. She doesn't have the wig on anymore. Like what?
Maybe Bobby. I mean, maybe that's what they like. Everyone just didn't really.
Because when the apartment is blown up and she's supposedly in it, there's a whole thing about Cruella's dead now.
Yeah,
right. But like, do they not see her at the end when she's clearly like waving goodbye to Emma Thompson as she goes away? Like what? I'm just dumbfounded.
A part of me was a little worried, like when they were sitting, I was like, is she legit gonna die and they're gonna try to act like she's like, I didn't know what was gonna. Luckily, they did what they did, and she was, you know, she faked her own death or whatever. But like, still, like, at first I was like, I don't know where this is about to go. Like, you didn't know, like, it's just like, you know.
I just don't know what this ending means, right? Because is she really are they gonna remake like an actual remake of 101 Dalmatians now? But you just gave away the puppies from the dogs that you kept. So why would you kill the dogs? What do you have against the dogs now? You kept them at the end of the movie.
That's the thing that I don't like. I say, okay, so now they're saying like she gifted the dogs. So I'm like,
yeah,
she can't be mad. Why does Roger write a song about her? Like she's better than the one he had to deal with.
That seemed like a studio note to me because it technically was a mid-credit scene, so it's not part of the movie.
Right.
But like they were
I
like,
think it was
"Oh,
just in their eyes.
we really like this movie, so
I
set
didn't
up
want to
101 Dalmatians."
They
Is
might
that
have
what it
to
was?
connect them, I guess. I guess that's what in their eyes. That's what they thought. I guess. But,
I mean,
um,
I don't listen. I sound angrier than I was when I watched this.
well, I'm
Just
not.
think,
Yeah, I just think you're making good points. I love the. I mean, I enjoyed it a lot. But
like, I listen. It's fine, right? Like, if I had to, would I watch it again? Probably not. But I wouldn't be like if it was on the TV, I wouldn't like turn it off because it's also like too long as well. I feel like we said that about Army of the Dead, but this is too long too. It's like 2:15. I want to say that's just way too long.
yeah,
There could have been some stuff taken out. Um, but listen, I was very confused at the end of this thing. I didn't know what this was. I don't think Disney knew what this was. I think Craig Gillespie went for it. Like he threw everything on screen. I liked his direction in it. It's either a script problem or it was just the studio interfering and muddling what his vision was supposed to be. That would have been clearer when you look at what happens at the end of this movie. Um, I I was just disgusted by the CGI dogs. That's another thing. Like there would
I
be
was
real
gonna say,
dogs.
why are we in it? It's not just Disney to be fair, but like that's now a thing. Now we're just gonna CGI every animal. I'm like, okay,
But the thing that was weird was they would be real 1 second, and literally the next second they would be CG, but they're not running, they're just walking along Cruella. It's like, can't you just have the real dogs walk
that's
along
what
Cruella?
I'm not.
Like
Yeah, that was one of my biggest problems. I was like, I don't understand why you have to have CGI
like
dogs. Like, yeah,
I
of course,
get it. Like you're not gonna have real dogs
a
push
cat.
the poor woman over the ledge, right? Like you get CG for that. But first of all, it doesn't look good. But second of all, what is the thinking behind like using them in certain places? I had no idea. Like
Yeah,
it
that
just
was
and some of the green screen wasn't great. Um but I loved the costumes. Like I would say like the
amazing.
costumes, set design, Emma Stone, those are the highlights here because I'm sure like the technical stuff in that side, like wardrobe and all that, I think that's going to be nominated for
Sure.
some Oscars for sure. And it actually, I'll give it also credit in this way. It felt like we were in the 70s, like it just had a grainy, gritty look to it in 70s London. So I like that. Um, I don't know. I feel like I'm being super like negative about this, and I don't mean to
One thing
because I didn't hate it. Like it's not like Mulan. Mulan, I actually hated. Cruella is just it was more frustration than anything. But
one
I
thing
mean, listen, that's just me.
yeah, and we talked. One thing I loved, like too, like the original was one of my favorites. So, like they, I don't know if this is what they were doing or this is how I took it, but when he's eating cereal, he's eating Cocoa Krispies.
Oh yeah,
Like,
that was a good joke. I like that.
I assume is what they were referring to that. I guess.
Maybe.
So that was cool. And then also when they did like they only did it for like one, I think, one or two, like the dog lookalike thing, like they teased that.
Yeah.
I mean, little things like that. Like, I mean, don't oversaturate it, but yeah, like I don't know. It's just I will say the only this isn't well, this is Disney, but it's not live action from animated. But like the only one I've ever seen that like when they've done something like obviously like here's your source material, let's try to do something else. I don't remember how you felt about the movie. I didn't like Mary Poppins Returns. I was so let down by the movie.
Oh, dude, I loved Mary Poppins Returns.
Maybe I went with too many. Like I wanted a little bit of the like, and they gave me nothing from the original, like which is what I thought was kind of like I guess I really wanted some like mixed in stuff. Like I didn't mind the new stuff just didn't hit. I need to rewatch that. I will rewatch it one day.
I love the music. Like at the very least, I thought. I mean, you're not wrong in saying that it didn't work for you because I think you are the majority opinion. Just like kind of this one, people didn't like Mary Poppins Returns, but they liked Cruella. So I'm just the complete opposite of you. But I thought Emily Blunt nailed Mary Poppins. I thought the music was
She
great.
was amazing. I won't take that from her. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the music was great. Set everything. I really like Mary Poppins Returns, honestly. But yeah, I totally get it. And listen, I'm in the minority about this one too. I think most people enjoy enjoyed Cruella. But I'm sure like sounds like you would still recommend this movie.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, especially for people that grew up with like watching the movie. Like I think it was enough. It was enjoyable. Like I said, Emma Stone makes the movie. Like
Yeah.
like sometimes she did her own thing, but like a lot of times, like I was like Cruella, okay, like a younger version, obviously. But
I forgot to ask you what is your 101 Dalmatians? Is it the animated or is it the live action with Glenn Close?
It's the
Okay.
animated. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I've seen the live action, but the one I'm talking about is the animated. That's
Okay.
the OG one. But
see, I love Glenn Close in the live action.
I don't hate that one. Yeah, I don't hate that one. But
I think the character just lends itself to like these like exuberant actresses wanting to go in and just have fun because Glenn Close was having fun in that movie. Emma Stone is having fun in this movie. So
I just think that one thing, I guess my biggest, and we talked about this at nauseum a little bit, but like, I just think my thing is like, go dark. Like, it's okay. Like, don't go too dark. I get it. You're Disney. You're trying to make it a family movie, but like every Disney movie has dark moments that you try to act like they're not dark. So it's like, it's okay. You can do certain things, so it's like, I think that they should have made her like officially go that route.
Yeah.
Like but you sympathize her with her at the end. Well, no, you're not supposed to lead into another movie, and that now she can't be the villain of that movie because she's not a villain anymore.
See, I thought it was like really dark for a Disney movie. Like she's out there.
That's where it was going because it was very like I think it had that moment, but then it was like, well, now you realize that she killed the villain off. Like
she's like binge drinking at one point. Like she's drinking out of a bottle. Like that's kind of there's a whole another conversation. But like Cruella can binge drink, but she can't smoke. Like what? I don't really get that. But yeah, like that was.
Well, they wouldn't let her smoke. Is that a thing?
Yeah, I mean, because in the original 101 Dalmatian, she has the little thing and with the cigarette at the end. Not one time in this.
That's true. Like I was wondering why they did. I guess they didn't want that.
They have a whole like smoking ban at Disney. Like no character can smoke, and I think that goes because of Walt Disney was a big smoker. Even in Saving Mr. Banks, like it was suggested, like you can kind of see smoke coming, but you don't see him actually smoke. Okay. It's a whole other conversation. But I would say sure, watch it. But I just wasn't blown away. And I like the trailers. Like the trailers were good. It just left me kind of wanting more. But I will say what didn't, well, kind of, yes, it left me wanting more, was A Quiet Place Part 2, Phil. Listen, I loved the first one. I saw it in theaters. Came out of nowhere, kind of. Like, it was kind of a major film, but nobody really expected it to be as good as it was, especially, like, with John Krasinski directing. Yeah. Like, he had directed an indie movie before this, but he was never, like, a big shot director. And then he comes out with A Quiet Place and makes a ton of money. And here we are with A Quiet Place Part 2. Phil, this was your first movie back in theaters. Tell me all about that and tell me about what you thought of the movie.
Man, like just being, well, first of all, I was like, I'm doing something wrong. Like,
yeah.
Like when you walk, because it's like, I haven't done it since February of last year. Like it was insane or something. I think it was around February. And so it's like, just being there was the experience enough. And if you know A Quiet Place at all, if you've seen the first one, that's a whole nother experience when you're in the theater in general. So I was like, for it not to be like a movie that like, you're going to hear people scream, you're going to hear people say, like, it's a movie that you legit will like have to like, you can like, escape in, basically. You're in the world.
Yeah, you're in the world, absolutely.
Sound and how everything works. I think it's amazing how they do. Like, it's hard to find original concepts these days, but like for them to do, like, I think that's why it blew up so big. That's what I loved about it. It's like, man, you could hear a pin drop in the theater. Like in the first one, and same thing, same moments in the second.
And especially these days, because I mean, everybody's got a cell phone in their pocket, and that's been a problem in movie theaters for years now. Is people going on their phones during the movie? Yeah. But I think Krasinski made something here that kind of you can't do that. Like,
and you're respected. They kind of respect it.
They were exactly.
Because I'll say this: if you're in a movie and you have this is the time you have an idiot in there, it would ruin the experience.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I'm glad that my both, seeing the first one in theaters and then seeing this one, there wasn't one. I'm sorry if you go see this and it is, because I could see it ruining it. But yeah, just being back was awesome in itself. but this movie is, like I said, just I may get tired of it eventually because like we won't get the spoiler material yet, but like I assume there's probably gonna be another one.
I think there's gonna be a third, and that'll be it though.
I think I'm good with one more. That's fine. Like just don't saturate it because I think sometimes that can happen. But it's just amazing like what John's been able to do. Like obviously I love him from The Office, so like him being like I'd love to see what else he has. And like hopefully he has some other ideas for different things in different worlds, which would be cool.
Yeah, I'll say this. I think it's on par with the first one, which you can't. Most sequels, especially, and I don't know, horror sequels. I'm not scared by horror, so I don't know what technically qualifies as horror. I would assume that this is a horror movie, but I never really get scared in horror movies. So to me, it's just like I don't know, a fantasy thriller or something like that.
I like horror movies. I don't get scared. Like I get scared easily in general. So like I'm just that kind of guy. But like I don't really like. I call this like more of like when people ask me what is it about. It's like I was like it's more like a suspenseful movie. Like setting like yeah, you could. It is in the horror genre for sure. It's just not horror doesn't really describe it because it's not like
maybe it's like similar to Cloverfield in that way. Like I don't think
that's a great example. Yeah,
like kind of like this big monster, but it's not really scary. It's mostly atmosphere stuff. So. Yeah, I would say on par with the first.
Yeah.
Not to spoil anything, but that first 10 minutes is like, holy crap, this is awesome. Like I love that so much.
And it's just like because one thing I'll say is like the one thing about the first one versus I'll say both sides of it. One thing about the first one, you didn't know what to expect. You go in there and then you're like, like it sets the atmosphere, and then it's like you don't think they can do that again. Instantly when they started the second one, it's right back to it. Like I was like, well, okay, it won't have the same effect. Like I was excited, obviously, but went in and like that was one of the things I was like, okay, don't get disappointed if it doesn't like give you that same feel. No, it did, and I'm like waiting for something that like you're waiting for it to like, and it's like it's so quiet because every sound like legit matters in these movies. So like I love that about it. Like that's something you can't find elsewhere, and that's what like I like to go to the movies to see something I haven't seen sometimes. You know, it's like.
Yeah, so that's a fantastic point.
Yeah, it's just amazing that it's able to do the exact same thing the first one did.
Because the way that the first one ends, you think, okay, this is how it's going to pick up, but it doesn't, and it's like, wow. I mean, at some point, like it was bound to happen, right? That it was going to be explained in some way, but the way it was executed and it was just so everything starts going down, it's so tense. I'm not gonna, we're not gonna speak any more on that, but I'll just say that the first 10 minutes is excellent stuff.
I would 100%, and it sells the movie too. Like it really, like, because I was kind of like, oh, they're gonna show, or like I didn't know, like you see the trailer, but I don't remember if I saw anything in the trailer, so I was like, I kind of forgot that. But
I would say that in this one, it relies more on the kids, right? The kids carry a lot of this movie, and my boy Cillian Murphy is in this. From the Batman movies, Peaky Blinders, which is, oh God, Phil, are you on the Peaky Blinders train at all?
That's what I've always keep saying I need to watch because I know I've heard
so
good.
good.
I think you were one of the ones that has always said it's really good. I love him. He's amazing in everything I've seen him in.
Incredible. He's in this. He plays a huge part in this movie, but I came away with this first of all being impressed by Krasinski that he did it again, right? Like. Sequels to horror movies or these kinds of movies can go really bad. They can over-explain or they can get so big that it loses what was special about the first one. This one wasn't that at all. I'm pretty sure from what I saw, it was something like this. The budget only went up by like $10 million. So it still kept it low enough to where you get creative with some of the decisions you have to make. Script wise and directing wise, which I appreciated because I mean, this is a franchise, but it's not the big franchise that's gonna
make it, the money's gonna start talking, and
it's not gonna be one of the. It's always gonna be profitable because it's never gonna cost $100 million or something like that. And lo and behold, I mean, this thing shattered pandemic records this weekend, which is great because the movie is great. I'm glad people are still interested in the franchise because this is one of those kind of like, along with John Wick, where it kind of gets this huge audience playing on cable for so many years. I feel like Quiet Place was always on for a period of time there. So I think that's where, if you hadn't seen it in theaters, you saw it on cable. Man, it just knocked me on my ass. Like I listen, it's not like one of the right now it probably is one of the best movies of the year, but that's just because we're so early in all these movies coming out. But man, even the kids were so good in this. They were good in the first one, but it was more like Emily Blunt and Krasinski doing the heavy lifting. But spoilers for the first one, Krasinski's gone, so it's mostly, you know, Emily Blunt and the two kids and then the baby. But they blew me away, Phil. I don't know how you felt.
Well, that's one thing that I was gonna say too. It's like that they kind of like you like. I don't know. I don't think the first one did, but that I know of, you would. I don't remember it being, but like casting should be this. These movies should be nominated for that because, the reason why I say that is because you have to have people that can facial like that's like hardcore art, acting. Like they have to be able to like not vocally act. They have to be able to like you feel them in every emotion you see it. Like you know, and I think that takes a lot. Like you have to have a high quality actor for that or actress. And so I think the kids like being that good already. Like that one, I guess you would call him the middle child.
Noah Jupe. He was in Honey Boy, which is a really good movie too.
Yeah. But like, yeah, he was like the fact that he's that good at that age, I can't imagine what he's going to be though if he keeps at it.
I mean,
great casting. I was getting at, but yeah.
Oh yeah, Millicent Simmons is the daughter. I think that's how you say her name. Who is actually deaf in real life?
Yeah, she's actually deaf. Yeah,
she is a star. Especially in this one. And like you said, I mean, they're doing sign language, so that's the only way of communicating. But she does so much with her face. That was a great point you made, Phil. She does so much. There's so much emotion in her face that you don't need words. And being in a quiet place, they can't really speak, and you actually do get more speaking in this movie. But I mean, for the most part, it's all emotions, and I always enjoy showing, not telling. Storytelling better than just, you know, a exposition dump in movies where they lay out everything. No, just show me what it is. And I think that's why I connect with these movies so much, is because I mean, there's a little bit of sign language, so there's some communication, but otherwise it's all in the eyes. It's all in the overall face of what's going on, the panic. Emily Blunt is like the queen of this. Like, she has one scene in this movie where it's just, oh my God, you're just on another level here. But I mean, it's so tense. It has the same intensity as the first one. You expand the world. I had questions about that maybe can be answered in the third one. But man, like this is just another great outing for John Krasinski. And like you said, Phil, I cannot wait to see what he does outside of this world. I'm sure he has a ton of offers. And he's something. Like, it seems like a lot of these actors recently turn to directing and they just knock it out of the park, right? Like Jordan Peele, Greta Gerwig. I'm probably forgetting someone right now, but like
on the fly like that. But
yeah, like there's just so many. There's so much fresh blood in the movies right now. It's truly exciting. So I would say definitely. I mean, if you're a fan of the first one, definitely check this one out. Sure. If you haven't seen the first one, definitely. I mean, these are two movies that, like, even if this is actually a perfect binge, right? Like, if you watch the first one and then immediately go to the theaters and watch the second one, it's perfectly done. It's perfectly edited. There's not that much time. Actually, not really any time in between both movies. I think this is a big recommendation from me.
Yeah, and definitely for me too. I love it. And I would definitely recommend. It's definitely a theater thing. Like I remember leaving the first one. I'm like, thank God. Because I wasn't. It was at that point. It was unsure. Like, obviously, if you like the first one, you're gonna go see the second one, or make plans, which is what I did. But like the first one, it's like I'd heard, and I was like, well, when I hear, like, I like to give it a chance, even if it's it's like I'll give it a chance. That's when I was so glad I saw it in theaters. Like, those moments, Bobby. Like when there's certain movies, like you're like, thank God I went and actually saw it.
Yes.
Wait.
Yes.
which is still good to watch at home. My friend watched. I let him borrow my Blu-ray of it, and he thought he loved it too. So it's still, you can still get a good experience at home. I'm not saying that, but yeah, like you said, like like I was planning to watch the first one again before I went and saw it. I don't know if you ended up doing that.
Yeah, I did. I rewatched it like the night
before. I ended up
before.
not doing that, but like even after I finished, like I want to go see it. I want to watch the first one. So I'm probably gonna watch that this week at some point because it's just done so well.
Yeah.
Highly
So that's the non-spoiler section. I mean, there's not that much spoilers we have to talk about. It kind of speaks for itself. So put a timestamp in the description. Just so wave again. Just so you guys can skip to the end where I have a big guest announcement for the end of the month. But Phil, those first 10 minutes, right? Like, kind of.
I was trying not to like give away, but like, yeah, you nailed. It's like you didn't think they could do a flashback and it be like, because at first I'm like, okay, like I didn't expect that too. Like I don't know, like maybe I missed it. If you can tell me if there was in the trailer, like I think I said that before, but like
I didn't even see a trailer. I didn't even see a trailer for this. I went in completely blind.
By the way, honestly, I'm guilty of it too because like you want to hype yourself for a movie. Trailers are like more and more like giving way too much information out. Like I don't know about this one because I didn't really watch a trailer for this one either.
I've been off of the trailers for like 2 or 3 years now, and it's so much better. Unless it's a Marvel or a DC or something like that, I'll watch it. I'll watch one trailer. I won't watch all of them because at some point, it's usually the last trailer that they release. It gives out everything. That's just too much. But for these like mid-budget or these indie movies, I don't even watch any trailers. It's like I'll look up what people are thinking about it, but that's it. But yeah, man, like this is just it hooks you right from the beginning because it was either going to be in this movie or the next movie that they would, or maybe even just like another spin-off down the line, God forbid that happens, where they're going to explain like how everything started. And we still, I mean, we see what happens, but we don't understand what actually prompted all of this to go on. But I mean, I love seeing Krasinski back. I kind of figured that somehow he would be back in this one just for a little bit. And man, when they're at the baseball field and then you see what's going on in the sky and everybody just stops what they're doing.
Right. It's just it's moments you can't like. And I'm glad you brought up Cloverfield. Like this kind of like that, but it's like things like that, like where you said you want like the origin and stuff too, but it's like not knowing why. It's just like seeing something coming from like, and it's like I think they do that very well too.
You know what it reminded me of? It's like because there's an intent that like you know what's coming, right? But it keeps up this kind of suspense. It reminded me of Jaws, like that first shark attack. Yeah. It's like you know that something's gonna happen here, but you're on the edge of your seat. You don't know when it's gonna happen. You don't know what's going to happen and how it's executed. And I loved when it finally happens and everybody's running away. And, you know, the Emily Blunt is in the car and then here comes the bus and she's going in reverse. I'm like, oh my God, this is such good shit right now. Like, I love everything that's going on.
Yeah. And you know, like she's got a kid, her kid's freaking out. Like,
oh God, like, it was so good. I would say that, like, you know, you can only go down from there because I just loved that first 10 minutes, but it kept everything, like it never lost I mean, because the first one was an hour and a half. This one is a little bit more, but it's quick, you know, like it's in and out.
Too long these days. So I think it's like when I saw, like, I even looked up to see what the runtime was and I was like 90 something minutes. I'm like, perfect. Like that's like
absolutely.
If you do it well, that's all you need. That's all the time that you need.
And you know, there's no fat on this bone, right? They like I said in the non-spoiler, they open up the world a little bit. We get the community on the island, and you kind of know that there's got to be one of these monsters over there.
You're like, they're not living in paradise. It's like you're like,
it's just too happy right now. Something's got to go down. But man, and one thing that I really liked, Cillian Murphy usually plays villains, and I'm glad like there wasn't a turn. Like I kind of expected that at one point where
oh yeah, I was a little worried too. I was like, oh God, he's gonna be bad. Like he's gonna do something and I'm gonna hate him.
Like he was a good guy in Dunkirk, right? But that was a super small part, and it seemed like there has to be a villain somewhere in this movie, and there's not, which is great. It's still the monster. Like there's no because I thought that because
at the docks, I guess you kind of got a little bit of
yeah,
but it was
and then they're taken care of
because they're not trying to overshadow the monster, which I like.
Because I was thinking, like, is he gonna really turn right now? Because when they first come together and they have a talk, he says something about, well, you don't want to be with anybody on the outside because you don't know what they've become. So I thought he was talking about himself in that way.
I thought the same thing. I was like, he's gonna do something because he wanted him to leave,
Yeah.
Thing,
And then he had this beautiful arc too, where he helps the family. He kind of makes peace with not saving his own family at the end of the day. He saves this family. So I was like, oh God, please don't either kill him either. Like, please, like, don't kill him off.
And I think it could be more of a testament because I like him as an actor. So maybe this isn't fully true, but like just a little bit you got of him in the backstory was enough to sell him. Like,
absolutely
care about him, which is like, it's hard to do that. Like a lot of times you have to like over explain and see all this extra time to care about that character, or this you just got a little bit and it was just enough. You saw that John, which is another thing, you have him established as a character, so then if he trusts him, then there's got to be a reason. And so it's like it was good. Like I think like they, like I said, that's props to the actor as well. But
and when the kid got his foot caught in the bear trap,
that part killed me. I'm like, no.
Oh my God. I think that was the scariest part of the whole movie, honestly.
I was like, oh no, don't.
And the way he screams, Phil, like it just gets into your bones, and you're like, oh my God, this is brutal.
It's like kind of flashback to the moment of when his brother died, like when they take his brother in the first one. Spoiler.
Yes.
But yeah,
with the truck.
Yeah,
with
so
the airplane. Yeah.
Yeah, because so it's like those, like it's just amazing how they're able to recreate. I mean, obviously he doesn't die, but
yeah. And I loved when Emily Blunt goes back to that pharmacy, and on her way there, she stops at the bridge and she leaves her wedding ring on the cross of where her kid died.
I guess that was as a nod for her husband. I get, yeah.
I liked it. I mean, it's a nice like sentimental thing to do. But
I was more worried they were gonna try to like go ahead and create something with him or the other guy. I can't think of his name, but in the movie,
I would say a couple of things I didn't like. I thought it was pretty obvious that the kid and the baby were gonna get stuck in that little coal thing right there, like because there's a clear shot when they first go in that the towel has to be down. Right. I was like, somebody's gonna get caught in there, but then they're gonna be fine, right? So that kind of was trademarked a little bit. I
just want to say this before I forget. The other nod about the rocket is when he's like going to buy groceries.
Yes, and they a quick shot of it.
That was perfect.
So good.
I didn't want to forget that because that was perfect.
So good.
Like,
yeah, I was like, you know what? You're a clever guy, John Krasinski. I like you.
That's what you're doing here. Because then you're like, no, not the rocket.
Yeah. It's like, oh God, that's not gonna be good. But yeah, I think that would probably be my biggest complaint is that there was a couple of things that were just kind of telegraphed, like the monster going onto the island too. You kind of knew that was gonna happen. Yeah. But otherwise, I mean, it's such everything is mostly done with such precision that it's like, wow, give me the third one already. Like, I don't know where this goes. Do they try to get the signal out to everybody somehow to broadcast the signal, and that's how you take down the monsters? Do you have any idea of what the third one could be?
Yeah, I guess you were talking about like cons and stuff. Like at first, when I was like, that's it. But I think it's because I loved it so much. Like I think like after it set in for a little while, I was like, oh, that's a perfect way to end it. Like, and that's no way to drag out the ending. No, just end it. Boom.
And that's how the first one ends.
After I started letting it sit there.
And the first one ends in a similar manner when Emily Blunt gets the gun and she's ready to attack the monsters. Like, oh, she's not going to do anything. We got to wait till the next one. So yeah, I think the ending fit just because that's similar to how the first one.
I just think you're so involved. Like you're wrapped. Like I said, like it takes you a while to snap back out into reality. Like you're in the movie. Yeah. In the atmosphere of the movie, and then it's like, so at first I was like kind of negative. I was like, that's it? Like what? That's it. But then you're like, well, yeah. Then it kind of,
But
you have
that
to
goes
think.
to that says a lot about how invested you were in the movie, right? Like you
Right.
want more, you didn't want it to end, and that's kind of like the best movies end that way, where you want more.
But
But
it doesn't
yeah,
like
like
guarantee. Like it doesn't like. One thing I love is like there's so many avenues of it in the sense of like there's so much more you can do. But if you didn't, you're fine too because it's like you kind of can create your own understanding where they go. And like you asked me like
yeah,
what I thought, like I don't know, like because like you saw it kind of is like if the third if he has in his mind like 3 was what he was gonna do, it's like okay, so she found out what's in the first one at the end, like okay, this is what I need to do to stop him. Then the girl's trying to make it to where it's broadcasted more. So I would think now the next step would be to try to get it to more people. Like you said,
exactly.
like, I think that has to be the logical next step.
I don't know how you do that.
Yeah,
That's why
that
I'm
would be
kind
very
of
like. Do they hear about something so they all go on a journey and it's about like traveling through?
like,
Maybe.
is there some kind of remnant of a government there that they try to bring this to? Or I just don't want it to be something where, because when you go from a small, by the way,
Yeah.
apparently this is in New Jersey. If they're that close to New York, I don't know of any place that looks like where they are. That's just a nitpick from me.
Yeah.
But if you're going outside of New Jersey and you're trying to, try to defeat all of the monsters, I'm not saying I worry about this because I think they're smart enough not to do
Yeah,
it
I
to do
trust
it,
them.
but they don't make it like the $100 million finale that has to be
Right.
done where you have all these monsters coming around and there's a big war. I don't think that'll happen, but I'm just fascinated as how you wrap this up because I mean you can't it makes money.
Yeah.
Trilogies are a thing, so I don't think they leave it kind of where it is at 2.
And I think it's hard too. Like, well, also because like you can make like I think that's the problem. You mentioned it earlier about John Wick, is I think now they're just making too many of them. Like
That's
it's like
why I didn't like the last one.
yeah,
Like
the last one was so campy. It's like just let's just John Wick, let's just do what we can to make money.
one John Wick 1 and 2. It's like okay, it's in New
Yeah,
York where we're understanding more of the continental. You're expanding the world in that sense, but it just got way too big. Like now he's a world traveler and he's going all over and he's recruiting these other people. It got too big in 3. I don't think that's gonna happen
I don't think it's
for
gonna. Yeah,
Quiet Place.
I would agree.
But at the same
I'm
time,
afraid
like
it will.
I'm open. Like, listen,
Yeah.
2 movies that they crushed. They have my trust. I think they're gonna do a great job. I want the third one.
Yeah.
I think we'll get news any week now that the third one is already in development. That
Already, yeah.
because I
I
mean
fully believe he has the script and everything. I mean, maybe not completed, but he has it for sure.
because this was supposed to be like when everything shut down last year, I'm pretty sure this was going to be the next movie that was supposed to be released. So this was in the can for like a whole year. So I'm sure Krasinski and
Has had
his
plenty of
team
time.
have been working on a script for 3 because they know like listen, there's no way in hell that this movie doesn't make money. Like it's going to make money. And you always want that trilogy, so to get the money for the third one. But yeah, I mean, total trust from me on the ending here. I just loved Killian Murphy as the addition here. Like he brought it. He brought it. Like I would argue that this
Yeah,
is his best film role besides Peaky Blinders, which is a show. But film wise, I think that this is his best work.
yeah. He's like I said, I like him and everything.
So big recommendations from,
So
and then we'll do the wave. I don't think we did the spoiler thing for
no,
Cruella. We just went into the next one.
Yeah, where it ended. But yeah, this is you can come back.
But yeah, man, big thumbs up for Quiet Place Part 2. Great movie. Definitely
And
check it out in theaters.
perfect movie to come back to. Like I'm so glad that was the movie that I got to start back the theater run.
And if I'm not mistaken, I don't know anyone who's on who has a Paramount Plus subscription, but I'm pretty sure they announced that 45 days after release, it's going to be on Paramount
Oh,
Plus.
is it? Oh, okay.
I
That's good.
I think that's what it like. Mission Impossible is going to be that way too. Like I think Top Gun is going to be that way. So they're kind of like doing their
the way
own
it's
version
going.
of HBO Max where it's day and date. But so I mean, listen, you don't have to see it in the theater. I think it would much benefit you. And also, like, I mean, my theater was completely in sync with what was going on. There was no phones. anything like that. No noise. Everybody was locked into the screen, so that helps. But I mean, I think you could watch this movie at home if you're not yet comfortable going into the theater. I think if you wait 45 days, I mean, like I said, I don't know anybody who has Paramount Plus. I'm assuming you don't either, Phil.
I actually have it because I had CBS.
Oh, okay.
That's the only reason I have it. Like, I wouldn't have. Like, I do actually have it, but I'll share it with my sister. But it's only because it was all access, and that's why I had it.
All right. Yeah. So, I mean, listen, definitely, you don't want to miss this one. I think this is the first major hit back in theaters. Just try to, if you're not comfortable, I understand it, but please support your local theater because, I mean, there was a time there last year where it was looking really bad for everybody. And it seems like the appetite for going back to the movies is there, which is great. So please go back to the movies. But that'll, yeah.
Phil. I was gonna say, just to add on to that, like, I don't want to see that go away. Like, I always want it to still be a part of that, like the theaters be a part, and because of streaming and stuff like that, and because of what HBO Max is doing, and now everyone that's copying them, I have been worried. Like, okay, we had this drought. Like, are people just not going to go back? Like, so this year is going to be a real test. Are people going back to the movies, and are they just used to streaming? Because so that's why I say go, because it's like I still have the experience. Just you can't beat it. So.
But I mean, if this past weekend is any indication, I think people want to go to the movies, which is great. Great for us, Phil, because that movie theater experience, there's nothing like it. Yep. Right? Like there's nothing like that kind of community. But I want to thank you, Phil, for being on the first episode of the relaunch on Picture Perfect. Anything you have to plug away, my friend.
Just Twitter, Nytemare10, if you want to know like instant reactions, anything. YouTube as well as Nytemare10, which is right there or whatever.
Both on Letterboxd. We both got the Letterboxd.
Letterboxd as well. I try to, I hate star ratings, so like if you see a star rating, like, dang, he rated this, and I'm like, that's just what I go by. Like I usually just I put like 5-minute thoughts into it, and that's it. Like I know what about where I like. If I hate the movie, it's probably a 2 or less. If I liked it, it's a 3 or higher. So there you go.
I'm low key kind of. I've been addicted to Letterboxd. I look at all the average ratings. I love it.
I love it to organize what I've seen. Like it's so depressing actually to look back. Like I have, and I think you're the one that I kind of like copied from. But like every movie I've seen in theaters, every movie I've seen total, and then I see 2020. I mean, I know this movie, but it's like 2020 in theaters was 2 movies, Birds of Prey and Doolittle, and I was like, this is like,
God, what a depressing list.
Like, those 2 were the only ones I saw in theaters. Horrible. So 2020 will always be the worst year.
Oh my God. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Phil. We'll have to have you on again. You can find the show on Twitter at PickPerfectCast, on YouTube, Picture Perfect. I teased it at the beginning. We have a major guest announcement for the end of the month. So we've got F9 coming out in theaters. It's going to be a huge hit. It's actually already out overseas, which is crazy. That almost never happens where it's out for like a whole month.
Yeah.
Like a whole month ahead of the North America here. But I can confirm we have 2 co-hosts for that day, but the big one that has been booked. Let me get the actual date here for the show. So on June 30th will be our F9 episode. The one and only Josh JTE Tapia from Schmoes Know and the Schmodown will be on the show. Super pumped about that. Josh seems like he's so ready to talk about F9. So that'll be at the end of the month. I'm working on another big one that you might know from the Schmodown, the movie Trivia Schmodown, that could be happening towards the middle of the month. But yeah, super pumped to have JT on the show. Give this video a thumbs up, I guess. Star rating on iTunes, on Spotify. We're pretty much available on all of the major podcast platforms. Follow the show at Pick Perfect Cast. I am at Bobby is Gross on Twitter. And we will see you next week for The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It. Phil, any anticipation in that?
I have a coworker that wants to see that, so I've never seen any of them, so I have to actually watching them.
I have high hopes for this third one. I've heard mixed things. We'll see. But stay tuned for next week's, and thanks for listening and watching.